Yes, the great Jon Stewart is leaving The Daily Show, a big loss for the simpering left-wing media. For whenever someone made a progressive point, it was Jon who repeated it days later to mass adulation. But his success is a lesson for the right, for it reveals how humor trumps hysterics. Even if his jokes seem too easy, at times we made it so, his wit won converts. Granted, it's not hard to find converts in the newsroom. Leftism is their oxygen. But Stewart used comedy to make a point, so he never had to express anger. That's way more persuasive than shrill bursts of shouting. And that's the problem with the right. Some of us yell the same point over and over again like an English speaker yelling the same phrase to some poor guy who doesn't know the language. We got political Tourette's. And really, Jon's mortgages were paid for by people who kept repeating dumb stuff. Of course, it helped that he shared the assumptions of his adoring media, taking on the left only when it was safe. But the good news is the rise of a liberal media came as a rejection of the boring traditional past. But now they've won, so the storyline has flipped. The right is now the rebel, which means it's time for a bunch of new Jon Stewarts to take aim at the old. Keep an eye out for them, because Comedy Central won't.
All right, so let's break this down here. There are some points that are decent, and there are some points that are crazy. So first, the crazy. To the idea that, well, the right are now the rebels. The right are the rebels? Who? Which right? Who are you talking about? Yeah, maybe there are some people like some Tea Party people who somewhere in the country are really anti-establishment and they hate the bankers along with the government and they have this real populist sense, right? So maybe there are a few out there somewhere. But the right, in terms of the politicians, definitely not rebellious, definitely not anti-establishment. They are the establishment. They are the establishment. They take the most money from the multinational corporations, and they do the most for the multinational corporations and the rich. They cut their taxes all day long. Certainly Fox News is not rebellious. I mean, they are the establishment as well. Greg Gutfeld, I hate to break it to you, but you're the same. I don't view you as anti-establishment at all. With what? You're probably $500,000 to $2 million contractor somewhere in there. So spare me this, the right is the rebel. Can you give me one example of that? One example of that. If you're the rebels, how come you're always trying to cut the taxes of people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Sheldon Adelson and George Soros? Why is that? All the rich, just cut the taxes on the rich. Cut them, cut them, cut them, cut them, cut them. So that's totally wrong. To the idea that, well, Jon Stewart, he was soft on the media, and he was soft on the Democrats. I don't know what show you were watching, dude. Jon Stewart had just as many segments ripping CNN and MSNBC as he did Fox News. It's easier to rip Fox News, but he did a lot of ripping of everybody. He was an equal opportunity destroyer. And, I mean, whenever there was Democratic hypocrisy on the NSA or on foreign policy, drones, war, he was all over it. Jon Stewart, like him or hate him, he's a principled guy. He's not, a partisan sellout Democrat like you guys are on the right, on, all on Fox News. It's not like you're truly principled conservatives. You're just partisan Republican hacks where, you'll contradict yourself gleefully as long as you end up siding with the Republicans and hating the Democrats. And so now let's get to the decent point that he makes. Now, it's not spot on, but there's something to it when he says the thing that was good or the thing that was successful about Jon Stewart is his comedy. And his comedy converts people. When you use comedy, you're able to make a substantive point without being abrasive. And there's a lot to that. And it is true that that's this big advantage the left has over the right, is that we have all the political satirists on our side, right? John Oliver, you could argue Bill Maher to a certain extent, Jon Stewart. It's a whole new blooming industry because it's possible and it's easy to be anti-establishment and make liberal points that make sense. The right doesn't have that. And this is where Gutfeld is right. The right does not have comedy that's witty, that's not abrasive. They just have people who are barking over and over the same points, and sometimes it rubs people the wrong way. Now, the area where I disagree with him is that he doesn't understand that I think both of those things are virtues, and they're equal virtues. So in other words, yes, the left has all the comedy, and yes, that is a big weapon for us, right? But that's not better than the ability to stay on message, repeat your point 1,000 times over, and really hammer it into people's heads. Because here's what Greg Gutfeld might not understand, is that even though that might not make people like you, it will make them reflexively repeat what you say and agree with you. So this is what we talk about all the time on the show, how the Republicans are fantastic at staying on message and saying shit over and over and over again, to the point where you go out there and you ask anybody who's even 3% interested in politics, and you ask them, hey, question, which political party is more in favor of cutting taxes for most people? They'll be like, Republicans. What do you mean? So Republicans, obviously. Now, again, that's not true. If you actually look at the policy proposals and you look at what both of the parties have done, you'll see that the Democrats always propose bigger and better tax cuts for 90 to 95% of the population. They want to cut taxes more for most people. So they're more the party of tax cuts. But nobody knows that. Why? Because the Republicans have messaged and repeated it and sold themselves as, we are the party of tax cuts, and whatever anybody else tells you is wrong, and we're the ones telling you the truth, and you heard it the most from us, so you know it's true because you keep hearing it over and over. There is no counter-argument. So they might not like you, Republicans, but if you get them to believe that you are the party of tax cuts, and, you know, maybe they're struggling through a certain time in their life and they're not making enough money, they might go, fuck, I'll vote Republican because I want to keep more money from my job. I don't want to pay as much in taxes to the government. So both things are virtuous. And what I want to do on this show is, look, I understand I'm not a comedian, right? I'm just not. And even like what Cenk does at TYT, he's not a comedian. If we ever happen to be funny, it's by accident. It's not like we're not trying, we don't craft jokes. But I know what I'm trying to do. I can't speak for him. Maybe he agrees with this, maybe he doesn't agree with this. But I'm trying to take the good aspects of what the right does and apply it to the left on the factual points. I think obviously the facts line up more with the liberals, and I want to see that same repetitiveness, abrasiveness, in-your-face aspect on the left that I see on the right. And we want to hammer our message home. So what I think the left should do is continue with the superior aspects of comedy, because we do win hearts and minds with comedy. But also, I want to add the second trick. I want to add the Republican trick of staying on message and doing a fantastic job with it, because I think that'll also help us. Now, the downside for people like Greg Gutfeld is he might think that the right can also try to steal the comedy angle from the left. Again, he kind of fancies himself a comedian also, but I don't think it's going to work for them. I think we can successfully steal the better parts of right-wing messaging. I don't think that they could successfully steal the comedic aspect that the left is good at. Why? Because their ideas are kind of inherently not funny. They really, hold beliefs and values that are fairly intolerant and fairly bigoted and fairly anti-poor and pro-war and for religious dogmatism and kookiness and metaphysical bullshit. So you can't really put a positive spin on that to make it funny.